Okay, guys, we're going to dive into routing now. So we've got all of our tracks created. Now we need to get them routed and we need to get them set up and all that stuff with levels adjusted. So I know from our own mixer that the ideal volume needs to be around -23 on all the tracks, with the exception of the click and guides, which we leave cranked. So we're going to open up the mixer here. And sometimes when you open this up, you may see these two tabs right here that are clicked on the left. Just go ahead and click off of those so they're grayed out and it closes it. So you can see here, this is what your mixer looks like. It's every single channel of audio that is present in your session. So over here in the top left corner of the mixer, you'll see this I/O, audio setup. You want to click on this, and what you're going to notice is when it pops up, you have inputs and outputs here, right? The output section is what we're going to need to work with first. So this is going to be the routing portion. And so essentially what we're going to do is we're going to add 8 mono outputs. Now, there you can run stereo, but let me explain what happens here. To run a stereo output, it means you have to consume 2 channels so that you can have one for the left and one for the right, which means we're only going to have 4 channels for tracks, tops, essentially available because of that. So we always run as mono. So check this out. We're going to add 8 monos. It's that easy to add the 8. And then what we're going to do is we're going to name them, because we don't want them to have like some sort of name that's off and all that good fun stuff. So basically, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and name these suckers. And yeah, here we go. Okay. So I've got them named, and you can see that what I've done here is I've named them in accordance to how I want them to be grouped on the mixer and all that good stuff. So here we have click, guide. Those are the things that are going to go to the ears and not to the house. And then drums. Now, let me specify, drums for me is specifically the drum set. I'm not going to send, my preference is not to send aux percussion stuff to the main drum line because, and this is just my philosophy on it, if the drummer is playing the drum set part, some songs like Only King Forever by Elevation is actually going to have multiple drum elements going on that are pretty important. And so you wouldn't want to necessarily mute the drum set and accidentally end up canceling out all those other important drum elements at the same time when they're all there. So for me, I like to have perk and any kind of extra things such as loops or tambourines or any kind of weird special effects sounds and stuff like that. Those are all going to go to a separate channel where we can kind of blend them to taste. I run all the guitars to the guitar channels because if there's electric guitar, you can always turn down the electric guitars and turn up the acoustics because they're actually going to have individual channel volume that you can turn up, like the acoustic guitar that's going to it, without necessarily having to turn up the electrics. But having them all go to the same bus just kind of does make sense. So anyways, so that's all we needed to do for this. So I'm going to hit apply so that everything's on. And then basically when I set these up as far as the outputs, this is literally how you do it. So if output 1 on your whatever interface you're using to connect this, whether it be directly to the X32 or whether it be to like a Behringer UMC or to a Focusrite, you just basically set these up where you need them. I do know on the Behringer UMC 8-channel ones, output 1 and 2 are also assigned to the master volume. So we usually set them up to be outputs 3 through 10 because it does have 10 outputs total. But the outputs 3 through 10 are not connected to the master volume on the front. So you don't have to worry about somebody accidentally cutting off your click and guide, fooling with that knob. So it's a real good way to be safe about that. So the last thing that we need to do is now just dip these channels, as far as routing is concerned at least. We need to just send these channels to where they belong instead of just sending them to the mains. So here we go. So basically I'm going to go through and I'm just going to go down the line here. So you can see the first 3 channels are going to get their own thing. And then with these, I'm going to set these up to go to those perk extra. All of the bass channels are going to go to bass. All these guitar channels are going to go to guitars. And this works just like any other computer. If you click the first thing and then click the last thing while holding shift, it's going to select all of it. So that's essentially all I'm doing. So then now we're here back at the beginning. We're doing this for the second song now. So again, click guide drums. And then we're going to put this in perk and extra. Scroll over here, and then we're going to add this to the bass, add this to the guitar channels, because the blue ones are all of our guitars. Okay, and then these are all keyboards here, so you can see I'm just going through, just clicking and just assigning where their outputs go, and that's all there is to it. Okay, and we're all done with that. So we'll go ahead and save this. I'm actually going to have to save it under a different name. So this is going to be our recording week 1 for July the 11th. So I always assign it to what week the recording is. So lastly, we're just going to go through and I'm going to click the first instrument group, because remember I said like we got to set the volume levels. So the first 2 channels, which are click and guide, I never turn those down. I leave them at 0, but the rest of them we put to -23. So I click the first instrument and the last thing, which is always our Vox. And I'm just going to use my fader port here, and I'm going to turn these down. You can do that manually by grabbing the faders. And what I'm looking for is somewhere in the mid level of like -23 dB. So here we go. Same thing with this. And there we go. So now all of our volumes are officially set. So that completes our routing and our volume setting of this video.